22 dandelions. That is what I counted growing up through the gravel path between my raised beds on the first Saturday of May. Big ones, the kind with a taproot like a skinny carrot. I killed every single one of them with 1 cup apiece of a mixture that costs about 3 cents a weed, and as of this morning, not one of them has come back. And no, it is not hydrogen peroxide. That one is making the rounds again this summer. And in my test beds, it did nothing but fizz. This is plain white vinegar from the grocery store. Now, I know what some of you are thinking because I thought it for years. You tried vinegar. The leaves browned. You felt pretty good. And 2 weeks later, that same weed was back like nothing ever happened. That was my experience too. I called it junk. But the vinegar was never the problem. The problem was that nobody ever explained the second half of the method, the part that actually kills the root. So stay with me to the end, because whether 1 cup of vinegar destroys a weed for good or just gives it a haircut comes down to one specific thing that happens underground about 4 days after you pour. And once you understand it, you will never lose to a dandelion again. I'm Steve Calloway. I've been growing food in the same Midwest backyard for more than 20 years, and for most of those years, I've kept side-by-side test beds and written records of what actually happened. My wife, Karen, keeps the harvest log with me. So when I tell you I tested this, I mean there is a notebook on our kitchen counter with the dates and the dead weed count written in it. Now, before we mix anything, let's talk about why this matters in a vegetable garden, because this is not just about a tidy path. A weed is a thief. Every dandelion, every patch of crabgrass, every thistle growing inside or beside your beds is drinking the water you paid for and pulling up the nutrients you meant for your tomatoes. Heavy weed pressure can cut vegetable yields by 1/3 or more. And in a small backyard plot, 1/3 is the difference between canning salsa in August and buying it at the store. So the weeds have to go. The question is what you kill them with. The jug of brand name weed killer at the garden centre runs $15 to $25 a gallon, and a lot of folks, myself included, are just not comfortable spraying that 2 feet from the lettuce. Plain white vinegar costs about $3 a gallon. The trouble is its reputation. Half the internet swears by it and the other half swears it is junk. And the strange part is that both halves are telling the truth about what they saw in their own yards. The difference between the two camps is not the vinegar. It is the timing, and it is that underground business on day 4 I mentioned, and we are getting there. First, you need to know what vinegar actually does to a weed, because once you see that, the whole method makes sense. Now, everything I'm showing you today, the mixture, the conditions, and that day 4 move, comes out of the same backyard testing that built my book, Steve's 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. It is the exact 30-day system I follow in my own garden to roughly double what every plant produces, written out day by day for home gardeners, from soil preparation all the way through harvest. It covers the Big 7 yield killers, my framework for finding exactly what is holding your garden back, plus feeding for fruit instead of foliage, the strategic pruning that feels wrong but multiplies production, and companion and succession planting systems with the science behind why each one works. It is 115 pages. It works in raised beds, in-ground rows and containers, and it needs no extra square footage and no expensive equipment. Right now it is $17, marked down from $47, and one good tomato plant pays that back by itself. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, back to the weeds and what vinegar actually does when it lands on a leaf. The white vinegar on your grocery store shelf is 5% acetic acid. And acetic acid is a desiccant. In plain English, it dries things out. Every leaf on every weed in your garden wears a thin, waxy coating, a little raincoat that holds moisture in. When acetic acid hits that coating, it strips it off and ruptures the walls of the leaf cells underneath. The water inside those cells leaks out, And then the sun finishes the job by baking the leaf dry. That is why a dandelion doused with vinegar on a hot July afternoon looks scalded within a few hours and dead brown by the next morning. And it is also why the same dandelion doused on a cool, cloudy day just sits there looking mildly annoyed. Vinegar needs the sun as a partner. My rule from the test beds is simple: 70 degrees or warmer. Full sun. No rain in the forecast for 24 hours. That is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And the hotter and brighter the day, the harder the vinegar hits. I have poured it at 95 degrees in late July and watched leaves wilt while I stood there. But there is one fact about vinegar that explains its entire mixed reputation. And you need it before you pour a drop. Vinegar is a contact killer. It only kills what it touches. It does not travel down through the stem into the root the way the systemic sprays from the store do. The leaves die completely. The taproot, sitting 3, 6, sometimes 10 inches down in cool, damp soil, never feels a thing. So the honest question is this: how can 1 cup of vinegar destroy a weed forever if it never touches the root? That is the day 4 question, and I promise the answer is coming because it is the whole method. First, let's mix the cup. The mixture has 2 ingredients. Start with 1 gallon of plain white vinegar, the ordinary 5% kind from the grocery store. Pour it into a watering can or a cheap pump sprayer. Add 1 tablespoon of ordinary dish soap. That is 1 tablespoon. Not a big squeeze because too much soap makes foam, and foam does not pour. The soap is not there to kill anything. It is a sticker. Weed leaves are slick, and without soap, the vinegar beads up and rolls off like rain off a duck's back. With soap, it spreads flat across the leaf and clings there in the sun, which is exactly where you want it. Stir it gently with a stick. There is no rush. Take your time. Now, about salt, because nearly every recipe floating around adds a cup of salt, and this is where I am going to save some of you from a mistake that lasts for years. In driveway cracks, patio joints, and gravel where you never want anything green again, salt is fine, and it does help. In or anywhere near a vegetable garden, never. Sodium does not break down. It builds up in your soil, wrecks the structure, and it will still be poisoning that ground seasons from now. Vinegar is the opposite. Acetic acid breaks down in soil within a few days into carbon dioxide and water, which is exactly why I am comfortable using it a foot from my lettuce and will not let a salt mix anywhere near the beds. So remember it as 2 recipes: vinegar and soap anywhere near food. Salt goes in the pavement recipe only, and only ever in the pavement recipe. Now for the pouring, and the day matters as much as the mixture. Pick a hot, sunny morning. Wait until the dew has dried off the leaves. Morning is best because it gives the weed a full day of sunshine to cook under. Find your target, and for a big taproot weed like a dandelion or a young thistle, measure out 1 cup of the mix. That is 1 cup, 8 ounces per mature weed. Pour it slowly right at the center of the plant, the crown, where all the leaves meet. Let it run out over every leaf and pool at the base. You want every leaf wet and the crown soaked. For a patch of small seedling weeds, switch to the sprayer instead. Coat the leaves until they are dripping. Do not bother drenching the soil around the plant. The root does not drink vinegar through the dirt, so anything that lands on bare ground is 3 cents wasted. And if the weed is growing close to a vegetable, hold a piece of cardboard between them like a little wall while you pour. Vinegar cannot tell a weed from a bean plant. It kills whatever green it touches, so the cardboard is your aim. Then step back, because this part is honestly satisfying to watch. Within an hour, the leaves start to wilt like they have been through a hard frost. By evening, they're going grey-green and slumped flat against the gravel. By the next morning, that dandelion is brown, crisp, and flat as a pancake. Karen calls it the 1-day haircut. And that name is more accurate than she knew, because the haircut is the trap that catches almost everybody. At this point, the weed looks completely, thoroughly dead. It is not. What happens next, underground, is the thing that decides everything. And it is where the day 4 move I keep promising finally comes in. Hold that thought through 2 quick warnings, because they will save you real grief. Warning 1. Never use this on the lawn to spot treat weeds. Vinegar kills grass just as happily as dandelions, and you'll trade one weed for a brown circle the size of a dinner plate. Warning 2. Never spray on a windy day. A breeze will carry a fine vinegar mist onto your peppers and tomatoes, and they will show you their opinion of that within hours. And even with the mild 5%, keep it out of your eyes. A splash stings, so a pair of glasses while you pour is a smart habit. While we are on strength, let's settle the horticultural vinegar question, because somebody in the comments will ask. Garden centres sell 20 and 30% horticultural vinegar for around $20 to $25 a gallon. It works faster and it hits woody stems harder. It is also a genuine acid at that strength. It burns skin, it can damage eyes permanently, and it demands gloves, goggles, and long sleeves every single time. So I ran them side by side last summer, the 30% against the $3 grocery jug, one at each end of the same path, and wrote down the results. With the follow-up move you're about to learn, the cheap 5% matched the strong stuff on every weed in that path except the 2 biggest bull thistles. Same result, 1/10 the price, none of the safety gear. For a typical backyard, save your money. The method matters far more than the strength, which brings us at last to the part I promised you at the start. Here is what is happening underground after that first pour. A dandelion's taproot is a pantry all season long. The leaves work like little solar panels, making sugar from sunlight, and the plant banks the extras starch down in that thick root. That stored starch is the reason you can tear off every leaf or burn them all with vinegar, and the weed barely cares. It simply spends its savings and pushes up a fresh set of leaves. About 3 to 5 days after your first cup, kneel down and look at that dead brown weed, and you will see them, small, pale green leaves, rising right out of the middle of the crisp. Day 4, give or take a day. And this is the exact moment the entire method turns on. Those new leaves were purchased entirely with the root savings, and they are far too small to earn any of it back yet. If you walk away now, they will grow, darken, and refill the pantry. And in 3 weeks, that weed is back to full size, which is precisely the story of every gardener who swears vinegar is junk. They landed the first blow and never came back for the second. But if you pour one more cup on that pale regrowth on day 4 or 5, while the leaves are still small and pale, the root has now paid out twice and been paid back nothing. The pantry is nearly empty. Most dandelions die for good right there, roots and all. The stubborn ones try one last time about a week later, smaller and paler still, and a third cup ends the argument. Out of my 22 path dandelions this May, 19 were gone for good after the second pour and the last 3 after a third. 22 out of 22, and that gravel path is still clean today. So that is the secret nobody explains. You are not poisoning the root. You are bankrupting it. The vinegar burns the solar panels, the root drains its savings, rebuilding them, and you burn the new ones before they earn a dime. Same cup, same 3 cents. Completely different result. And the only thing that changed was when you poured the second one. The garden doesn't lie. It rewards the system, not the guesswork. And that is exactly the kind of thing my whole protocol is built on. Tested, cheap, and written out day by day so you can just follow along. Steve's 30-day maximum yield protocol is the system I use to roughly double what every plant in my backyard produces. 115 pages, working in raised beds, in-ground rows, and containers alike. And it is $17 right now, down from $47. If a 3-cent cup of vinegar can clear a whole path for the season, imagine what 30 days of that same kind of testing does for your tomatoes. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So, one more time, the whole method in one breath. 1 cup of 5% vinegar with a tablespoon of dish soap poured on a hot sunny morning, and a second cup on the pale regrowth around day 4. If you run this test in your own beds, come back and tell me the before and after. I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you why I cut half the leaves off my tomato plants every July, and how that one uncomfortable afternoon with the pruners added about 40 pounds of tomatoes to Karen's harvest log last year. Get out there and get your hands dirty, and I'll see you in the garden.